Greetings everyone, I'm Dr. Anth. In the prior video, I talked about how the domestication of plants and animals resulted in humans being exposed to many contagious diseases. See link in the box below. In this video, I will explain the relationship between agriculture and sickle cell anemia. The domestication of grasses such as wheat and millet caused populations to remain in one location to protect and harvest their fields. Since they weren't moving around, women found it easier to have babies more frequently. Even though 50% of toddlers died due to lack of protein in their diet, the larger number of babies born led to rapid increases in population size. The more mouths there were to feed, the more land that needed to be brought under cultivation. Grains are grasses and are meant to be grown on grasslands. Eventually, human populations began to move into regions that were not grasslands, such as forests. In order to grow their crops, the farmers cut down the forest and burned the stumps and brush to create new farmland. This is called slash and burn, or Swedish agriculture. The forest soil is not really appropriate for growing grasses and grains, so it quickly wears out. This means yet more forest needs to be cut down. Although the farmers didn't really think about it, the forests were full of animals that had to move somewhere else or die. In West and Central Africa, one of the animals living in the forest was the gorilla. Gorillas are well adapted to the forest, but they also have to deal with diseases carried by insects. One of these diseases is malaria, which is caused by a pathogen carried in a mosquito's saliva. When a mosquito bit a gorilla to draw blood, it left behind the pathogen. When humans cut down the forest, the gorillas moved to other forested areas. But the mosquitoes discovered that they had a new, much larger group of apes to feed on: humans. The humans had no resistance to malaria carried by the mosquitoes and began dying in large numbers. Mutations to DNA happen constantly. Most mutations don't have any effect. Some can kill. A very few are beneficial. Fortunately for the humans living in the malarial zones, a few individuals developed DNA mutations that affected their red blood cells. Everyone has 2 copies of their DNA, one from their mother and one from their father. If a mutation occurred in a gene in just one copy, then that person was more likely to survive than someone who did not have that mutation. However, if both copies of a gene had the mutation, then the individual would die as a child. This special situation is called a balanced polymorphism. This means that a person who does not have the mutation has a high probability of dying of malaria. A person who has a mutation on both copies of their DNA will not get malaria, but will die of a disease called sickle cell anemia. Only a person who has one unmutated copy and one mutated copy will have a high probability of surviving to adulthood. The mutation affects the structure of the red blood cell. The malarial pathogen invades the red blood cell to reproduce. If the red blood cell has a mutation, when the pathogen invades, the cell collapses into a sickle shape, which kills the pathogen. If only half the red blood cells have the mutation, then the pathogen is killed, but the person has enough healthy red blood cells to survive. However, if all the red blood cells sickle, then blood cannot flow through the body and the person will die. In the past, this mutation was the only way that humans could survive in a malarial environment. We now have medical treatments and a vaccine is being developed, but malaria is still a major killer disease. Over 400,000 people, most of them children, died of malaria in 2019. Agriculture is the major factor in the rise of the sickle cell mutation to fight malaria. Cutting down forests to try to turn them into grasslands to grow grains such as wheat and millet pushed humans into a life and death fight with malaria. This map shows the distribution of malaria in Africa and Eurasia. And this map shows the distribution of the sickle cell gene in Africa and Eurasia. The life and death fight with malaria has not ended. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to my channel.